Rohan's Corner, that show's awesome, awesome, it's so awesome, oh so awesome, awesome, awesome. Doesn't Rohan's Corner collect GoBots? That would be really lame. One of the many robot franchises on his show. He treats them all the same. Awesome. 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 He's got a wall of fame. Awesome.
Wasbinator says, welcome back, y'all.
Hello everyone, welcome back. Good to see you. It's going to be a short episode this week because I've been on the live stream earlier today. But I was watching Ahsoka this week and it got me thinking. The new robot character, Wang, however you pronounce his name, he is an interesting little character. He has the know-it-all to be one of the best sort of knowledgeable bots in the series. And don't get me wrong, a lot of the droids that we've seen in Star Wars have been really knowledgeable or have been really helpful. Especially the one voiced by Alan Tudyk in Rogue One. However, there are limits to how much you can put a character up on a pedestal in the sense that they can do everything. So, either they could be really knowledgeable, they could be really intelligent, they could be really able to do something like fight or provide something. And it got me thinking in the Transformers universe about Prime. And so I thought, it's Prime time. Let's have a discussion about Prime, because obviously if there's one synonymous character with Transformers throughout the decades, it would likely be Prime, right? If you ask someone who isn't a Transformers fan, who is your favorite Transformer, 90% of the time, you're going to get Prime if you don't get Bumblebee these days. And it's a fair answer, right? You think about it and think, well, pretty much every series of Transformers through the decades, whether it be a toy line or a cartoon or a comic book or some other kind of media, has had some form of Optimus Prime as the leader for the Autobots. And that's cool. Optimus Prime is a great character. And it got me thinking, well, why is Optimus Prime a great character? And what defines Optimus Prime's character? Since we've had so many iterations of Primes through the decades, which one is the de facto character? Well, there isn't one, right? If you look at Generation 1 Prime and you compare him to Beast Wars and Beast Machines Prime, and you compare him to RID Prime, and you compare him to, the movie series Prime or animated Prime, they're all completely different characters.
You've caused enough destruction for one day, Megatron.
I haven't even started. Who are you?
Your worst nightmare.
Attack him! Finish him!
And yes, the nuances may be subtle, but actually they are quite vast in the sense of where the characters come from, where the character's going, what the character's abilities. Is the character sentimental, or does he have a lot of empathy?
We're all thankful to you, Omega. You saved the city.
Duty ignored. Duty fulfilled.
You're as good as they come.
Compliment appreciated.
I know that what the Constructicons did back on Cybertron changed you. Took away your feelings. But perhaps someday you'll see that there are more important things in life than revenge.
Or is he a war machine? Or is he ruthless and aggressive?
Always the bravest of us. But you could never make the hard decisions. Please. Who would you be without me, Prime? Time to find out. was the survival of our race. You must see why I had to betray you. You didn't betray me. You betrayed yourself. No, Optimus!
And all these sorts of bits and pieces. And I suppose the point is that there is a huge chasm of a difference between the deterministic attributes that we have for Generation 1 Prime. You know, freedom is the right of all sentient beings, and there's a thin line between being a hero and being a memory.
Megatron, I had a hunch you'd try something like this. Destroy him! I've got a better idea. Save your skins!
And those sorts of characteristics versus the likes of the movie Prime, where give me your face and I'll kill you all and that sort of thing. And also, you know, someone like Animated Prime, who was more of a junior character who had been booted out of the academy and was learning from scratch, although he still had a slight arrogance and confidence about him, not in a negative way. And then someone like Armada or the Universe Trilogy's Prime, who was, you know, stoic and sort of knew his place and was able to take on Megatron despite being smaller, but at the end of the day sacrificed himself for the greater good. Or someone like a Beast Machine's Prime, who was devout in his thinking for his, you know, faith and nonsense, really, or worship for things that were all elusive and, you know, the Oracle and things like that.
I am Optimus Primal, leader of the Maximals. I mean you no harm.
The Vok know you well, Optimus Primal. We'll speak when my primary programming is completed.
I cannot let you destroy Megatron.
His disruption of time and space must end before the damage grows greater.
Destroy him, and you'll only make things worse. If I'm ever to get to the heart of our quest, then it is vital that you leave me alone.
And I guess my point is this, that there have been so many different versions of Prime now. If you could decide the next Prime, what kind of characteristics would he have as the leader of the Autobots? What would you choose to put into that bucket? And I think about this from my perspective, and I say, well, Generation 1 Prime is Prime for me. He was the epitome of all Primes, and he's the reason why we had that pedestal. When the 1986 movie came out, that kids around the world were absolutely devastated by his death. It was because they had created this character who was so likable, so amenable to people on a, you know, relationship basis, that especially children, because he was a great leader. He cared about his troops. He cared about mankind. He wasn't a ruthless killer who was out for himself or just to, you know, look after Cybertron or just to kill the Decepticons.
Our power is greater than theirs because it comes from a place of goodness, not greed. We'll get your father back. Believe me.
I do believe.
Good. What you've seen is evidence of our commitment to protect this planet and its people. And one day, with your help, we'll defeat the Predacons once and for all.
He had a lot about him from, you know, a psychological and emotional perspective, which is not really something that we talk about all the time. In Transformers, we tend to talk about, you know, power and about aggression and about capability on the battlefield and weaponry and, you know, alt modes and all this kind of stuff. And that's all good stuff. But, you know, from a psychology perspective, that was my Generation 1 Prime. And actually, that is not fair, because if you look into Season 2 and War Dawn and the birth of Optimus Prime from Orion Pax, you see that actually he comes out and he is this absolute behemoth of a warrior who takes on Megatron's whole army and destroys like half of them. And that's great. I don't get me wrong, but it doesn't give the defensive kind of ideology that I've just been talking about for Prime, and that's okay, because I think there are varieties in psychology where different people can have different moods and different moments and etc. etc. And so we're all different at different times, right? And that's fine as long as you don't push it too far down the line and become I will rip your face off Prime, because that's a different kind of a person. Anyway, what do you think? Do you think Prime should be X or Y? What do you think is the de facto sort of mentality, psychologically, driver for Prime that you would like to see in an upcoming series of Prime? Say, for example, that we were going to have something similar to the Wolfish Cybertron series with Netflix, but instead for Legacy, and they were going to create a new Prime, and that Prime was going to be built from scratch. It doesn't really matter what he looks like, what his capability is as a warrior, or what he transforms into, how much weaponry he has. It's the psychological, it's the mentality, it's the what is the essence of your Prime? So I thought I'd leave you with that for this week, and hope you enjoy the rest of the show. Back to the studio.
Transformers!
Rohan's in disguise.